What if you live to 100? That's not a small question. It's a question today that's quietly reshaping our lives, business, the world of medicine. What if you live to 100? And I think the more important point is, what if those extra years were actually good? AI is being deployed to answer that. Predict disease before symptoms show, personalized treatment to your genetic makeup, read your sleep, your glucose, your cortisol, tell you what to change. That's the promise. And pieces of it are real, but every supplement brand and wearable company, no present company excluded, decides to call itself an AI longevity company. That's not a small question. Today I want to do something specific. We'll separate what the science actually supports and what the industry is selling. Two people on stage, like we've just been told, on two different sides of the same continuum. One is at the consumer frontier of AI health, one at the frontier of genomics. Different worlds, different evidence standards, possibly different answers, and which is why we thought it'll be great fun to pair them together. Where does the AI health revolution actually stand? Promise or proof? Since my fellow panelists have already been introduced, I'll make full utilization of the time and jump straight to Gaurav. Gaurav, you've built Gabit to bring AI health to consumers, wearables, coaching, nutrition. The honest question, how much of what Gabit does is actually AI and how much of it is wellness with a tech layer on top? What can your platform actually prove it does for health outcomes?
Hi everyone, it's great to be here. Gabit is one word for good habits. Health is all about good habits, so that's why we coined it. So I think you can understand the genesis. We want to do stuff that you can do for life to improve your health. It's not about the faddish things that spike up today and go away tomorrow. It's about something that you can follow for life. I think when we talk about AI, we should actually talk about what is the purpose AI is serving for what we're trying to do. And I'll give you a few examples of what we've done and how we've used it. And I think it's served different purposes. It's not the same thing. So first of all, if you build a product, you have to make it easy to use. Otherwise, we will not use it. Like humans are lazy. We're all lazy. We want the least effort and the maximum outcome. So when you design a product, you actually think about how can you make it easy. Let me ask you a question. How many people have tried food logging here, ever? Logging their food to track their calories. How painful is that, right? Texting, imaging. And we said, how can we make it more interesting or easy? So we used AI there. So we basically built a speech-based AI-based food logging feature where I log my food by saying 3 scrambled eggs for breakfast, 1 chicken salad for dinner, done. Gives me my macros, micros. I can speak in any language, mix it up, it picks it up because we've got a full database at the back end, but AI helping us for the speech recognition, all of that. So that's one example. Second, when we started, of course, Gabit has a lot. It's like Gabit integrates fitness, nutrition, sleep, stress, VO2 max, resting heart rate, a lot of metrics. And people started asking questions, what is VO2 max? What is resting heart rate? What does it even mean? What is a good resting heart rate? There is where we used AI to personalize or help people at scale. We built an AI health coach. The name of the coach is Pep. So you can talk to Pep. You can understand what these metrics mean. So that's another way of helping people understand this. And then I'll talk about it later a little bit more, but it goes beyond that. So today, one, of course, AI can talk to you so you understand it easily, but it also helps you understand history and find correlations. So now we've built Gabit into a platform where you can track 150 markers on one platform. So we have the smart ring, which some of you would know. And we also have blood tests on the platform. We have a smart scale. We have CGM. So you can track 150 markers. And now we use AI to help you assess across all these markers in one place. Because today, without Gabit, you would actually do this on 4 different platforms, even globally. And the data will not even talk to each other. So now we're using all of that on one platform and using AI to see what is it really telling about your health and what you need to fix. So I think different use cases. And the only thing I'll say to your point about outcomes, no matter how much people preach you about health, like do this, do that, you don't listen to them. But what we've seen is, like buying a ring a smart ring, a Gabit smart ring is like buying apparel, shoes online. It's very easy. Then you put it on your finger and you start. When you look at your data, you want to make a change. That's what we've seen. It's very intrinsic. And just the last example I will share, my mom is a power user of the Gabit smart ring. I just built it and sent it to her. I didn't say anything. She does, like, of course, she uses a phone, but she's not into like tech. But she doesn't want a bad sleep score in the morning. That's it. So she makes my dad sleep on time. She sleeps on time. Doesn't watch TV on time for the last 2 years. If anybody would have told her, she wouldn't have done that. And I can see on her face that her health is getting better. So it has to be very intrinsic.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I know a lot of people who track their sleep, and I always say that if you fail at sleeping, then it doesn't say too much for what you're going to do with the rest of the day, right? If you fail at sleeping, that's something really going really bad.
True.
So the question for you, just as a follow-up, Gaurav, is, the smart ring, the AI coach, the personalized plans, who's currently actually using this? Is it reaching people who need it, or currently who are already obsessed over their health?
So I think, again, when you want to build a product that reaches scale or many people, so one, we traverse ages. So we have customers of 14 years of age, we have customers of 93 years of age. That's one. So hardly any product traverses this kind of age. That's one. Second, I think health is important for everyone.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you have to understand when will it actually traverse and how will it. So one, it has to become easy to use. So our app interface is very easy to use. Gifting is a very big use case. A lot of kids who are guilty of not staying with their parents would gift a Gabit smart ring to their parents so that they can actually understand their health. And there also we said, as soon as people started asking for gifting, we said, okay, what can we do? I don't want screenshots of your health data moving across families.
Yeah.
That's very insecure. So we built a very smart but a very simple feature, which I was surprised that nobody else had it, which is a click of a button. You can share your data with your loved ones. And their app starts seeing your data. You can only share it because it's your data. And that has become really big. So again, simple things like people hate to charge their products. They don't want to charge their products. So we made a 10-day battery life product, which is better than most others. So if you make it easily, and secondly, and of course it has to be aspirational, it has to be good, it has to be more holistic, science-backed, accurate, all of that is a given. And if you also make it a bit more affordable, then more people will be able to reach it. So our goal at Gabit, the vision of Gabit is to enable everyone to live healthier and longer. That's what we want to do. And we put a lot of effort in actually launching a product which was more affordable than most others and also better than others. And that's why, because of the ease and the affordability, more and more people are able to use it.
Yeah, especially in a price-sensitive market like India and for a new category, I think price points are extremely important if you wanted to.
Can I correct that? Price-sensitive. Every market is price sensitive. I don't think only India is price sensitive. Everybody, everywhere in the world is always asking for, I'm paying X, what am I getting? I'm paying X, what am I getting?
Yeah.
So I think everybody wants a product which does value add to them at the price that's reasonable.
Sure. So just one follow-up question. Gabit has Ranbir Kapoor and Badshah as investors, right? So that's marketing power as well. What's the one claim that Gabit makes that you can back with clinical evidence, and which parts of it are you still ahead of the proof?
So again, all the parameters that we build on Gabit, for example, let's say heart rate, let's say resting heart rate, let's say VO2 max. So when we do this, we actually match them or benchmark them with the gold standard in the industry. For example, as of now, for heart rate, the gold standard is a chest strap. A lot of athletes wear chest straps with ECG. That's the one which is. For VO2 max, it is the lab equipment. Has anybody done VO2 max in a lab with a mask on them? Yeah, one person. How many people even know what is VO2 max in this room? Like, how many people know what is VO2 max? Just raise your hands. This is still a very enlightened group. Usually I get 1 or 2 hands. And you know why? VO2 max is the most scientifically proven metric correlated with longevity. So if you increase or maintain your VO2 max as you age, you will live longer. It's proven. But guess what? 95% people don't even know what it means. Yeah. So when we built it and we benchmarked the algorithm and we tried to do something which is close to a lab, we worked a lot on it, and that's where we benchmarked it. So it's like almost on Gabit, it's almost like 92% accurate to a lab one. Now, going to a lab, spending 6,000 rupees is very difficult for people to do. But if you can get something which is 90 to 92% close to that, it's really helpful. And the last thing I'll say on this is, we all obsess a lot about, did I do 10,020 steps or 10,070 steps? It's complete crap. You should figure out, what did you do today, and did you do more than yesterday today? right? Whether it's 10,000, 10,500, doesn't matter. And your trend should be keeping getting better.
Micro adjustments.
So use the same instrument, tracker, whatever machine you're using, but then see whether in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, a year, you're actually improving on that metric or not. That is very, very important. Rather than obsessing about, did I did 10 steps short or 50 steps short, it doesn't matter. Yeah?
Thank you. Nickhil, Gaurav is talking about consumer AI health tools. Is there a risk that the consumer wellness boom, and it's a lot of visibility there, is distracting from where AI can do its most serious work?
No, I think AI can do a lot, but there's a lot AI can't do. The key is to figure out what the right places to use AI is and where it should not. And I'll give you some examples. I actually did a study where I took my blood test data, my genetic data, my pharmacogenomics data, and I put it into Claude. I got a result back. Very compelling answer. Really good, looked amazing. I then sent it to my clinical genomics team of doctors and geneticists. They looked at the report and they said, these are made up names of genes and positions.
Wow.
It looked very credible, but it was completely wrong. And so we then took the analysis, gave AI much better instructions. It was much more sharp. And then the results were better. But it led to a fundamental belief or realization for me that AI without experts isn't credible, is not credible. And experts without AI isn't scalable.
Right.
And so I think in any space, AI can work, but it has to be accompanied by the appropriate experts. And whether the experts are in physiology, psychology, any aspect, you are always going to require that combination. And I think there's been a lot of discussions earlier today about AI. It has power, but it also has the power to disrupt things badly.
Yep. I love the analogy of credibility and scalability, and both have their own sort of places in their ecosystem. You came to genomics through personal loss, your mother's cancer. GenePath is trying to democratize diagnostics previously available only to wealthy patients. What does AI actually make possible in cancer detection today that was impossible 5 years ago?
Yeah, so both my parents were diagnosed with cancer. First my mother, then my father. My mother was diagnosed at stage 2. And breast cancer at stage 2 in the US has a 90% survival rate. So if you are caught at stage 2, there's a 90% chance 5 years later you're still alive. In India, that percentage is 69%, which means 21% of women die from breast cancer, which they would have survived had they just lived in a different country, which is not fair. And the answer to that is because the rate at which research is progressing is very rapid. I mean, every 3 seconds there's a journal paper coming out that talks about newer and newer research. But doctors are already overwhelmed. And so the only way to keep doctors up to speed on the latest research is to figure out a way to marry AI and their expertise.
Right.
And so what we have seen happen is a lot of progress that's happened in cancer research has come because the right type of experts used AI, checked with the validity of the results, and that has led to advances in immunotherapy. In radiation, today you can be very, very targeted in how you go about it. For many years, people thought, and this was true when my mom was diagnosed, she passed away. She should never have passed away. Because the one thing I learned, and I was not in that space 11 years back, what I learned is if 20 women have breast cancer, we treat it as one cancer. But 20 breast cancers are 20 different diseases. This woman's breast cancer is because of this mutation. That woman's breast cancer is because of a different mutation. But for so many years, they were all given the exact same chemotherapy. Right. And the ones who happened to have that match succeeded. The ones who didn't, they did not. And they said, yeah, it's cancer. But it's not cancer. It is, you have to understand what it takes to solve it, those answers exist. But doctors have to find a way to keep up to speed. And it is not physically possible to read every paper that comes out. And so what I'm finding is what AI is helping with is put together all this data, make it accessible to doctors to be able to now get that much smarter. It should be a really good assistant to doctors who are motivated to keep up.
Right. So India's completed about sequencing about 10,000 genomes by Jan 2025, the Genome India project. How close are we to AI diagnostic models actually calibrated to Indian audiences as opposed to relying on Western populations?
I think we are now on the right track, but we are still very far. Okay. 10,000 is not a big number because, you know, a human genome has 6 billion nucleotides. Okay, so 6 billion positions. And each of those positions could be 4 different things, A, T, C, G. So imagine trying to find commonalities and differences, because we are all going to have differences.
Right.
But which differences matter, which differences don't matter. Just as a way of education, out of the 6 billion nucleotides in the human genome, only 2% of that 6 billion is known to mankind as to what it does. 98% we have no idea what it does. And this is true even in the West. Now in India, we have to not only figure out whether those 2% do exactly what they do for the West, but there may also be things in the 98% that are meaningful. So 10,000 is a good number to start, but we are going to require 100 million, 200 million. The good news is the cost of sequencing is coming down dramatically. And as that comes down, more and more people can be sequenced, and the rate at which the learning will go up will be tremendous.
You know, so ultimately, both of you all are running businesses, and one of the dharmas, as we call it in India, of a business is to generate profit for its shareholders, right? You've created about $1.2 billion in value across your previous companies, but those were tech exits. Genomics in India means public health systems, regulatory approvals, last mile access. Where for you do you think is the friction hardest?
You know, the thing with health is most of us take health seriously only after we are sick.
True.
If we could find a way to, and I think that's changing. I mean, the fact that, you know, Gabit is doing as well as it's doing, this would not have been true before the pandemic. I think the pandemic has changed people's mindset, and it is accelerating. And when, you know, people like Gaurav's mother start using it and find value in it, that's when things will start scaling. Unless we can bridge that gap from the early adopters to the mass market, only then the magic happens. And I actually feel like the consumerization of health is going to be critical for it to spread. And if we can do that, AI plays a role. But I'll just give a quick framework. There are 3 parts that are going to be critical for us to make it mass market. Number 1, today information is getting generated at a massive pace, right? Wearables generate data like never before. Like I said, every 3 seconds there's a paper coming out. Some are good journals, some are bad journal papers, but they're all papers. There is new information coming out on social media. There are good influencers, there are bad influencers. Today the problem is not data. The problem is credible data. So that's the first issue, is getting credible data. Second, if you identify credibility of data, then how do you convert this massive amount of data into information? And once you have good information, how do you get people to take action? There are 3 very distinct areas, and each of them plays a critical role. But I think right now we are still stuck at, we all watch Instagram videos, and one influencer says one thing, the next influencer says the exact opposite. And people are paralyzed into, okay, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. That to me is the biggest bottleneck.
So we'll try and have some fun and do a little bit of an interplay between the two. So question to both of you. So if someone chose a Gabit subscription for a year versus a GenePath diagnostic or genomic test, each of you just defend, what do you think will give more value and why?
They can take both.
Yeah, but if you had to choose one, like if I can only afford one, what do you think will give me more value? What's my first, why should Gabit be my first point of contact, and why should his test be his first
So nothing against, we're all doing the right thing, but in my view, what I'm really bullish about is continuous data monitoring. So this exactly knows when my heart goes out of rhythm. It has millions and millions of data points on just how my heart beats. And I think that is super powerful. When you put that kind of data through AI, what it can uncover about your body and what's going through, it's crazy. I'll give you an example, just taking it a bit forward. So we basically recently launched something called Gabit 1 on Gabit. So we got the smart ring, we got blood test on Gabit, you got CGM and you got a smart scale. You can track 150 markers. And then we put that through our research-based model that we built in the last 3 years. It told me that I've increased my workouts a lot in the last 4 months. I've reduced my carbs a lot in the last 4 months. And that is putting stress on my pancreas, as it can be seen in my blood report. I don't know anybody else who can actually be that insightful, because every data is on Gabit, including continuous data monitoring, and then AI is using that. So I think that is where this whole availability of data is super powerful combined with AI. And that's why I would bet on it as the first thing to take.
You've got one additional customer just by that one insight that you've said. Fantastic. What about you, Nickhil?
I would like you to become my next customer. So, we are launching Mira 1 today. And in fact, the QR code, if you scan that, you'll know more about Mira 1. Mira 1 is, you do your blood test every year. When you do your blood test, you get your cholesterol and all these things, right? But it tells you what the impact of whatever you're doing is on your body today. What we are doing with Mira 1 is, in that one blood test, we are doing a blood test, we are doing a genetic test, and we are doing a pharmacogenomic test, which tells you how your body reacts to different medications. How you deal with ibuprofen is very different than how I deal with ibuprofen. Right. But how do I know that we are different? How do you know? But the genetics tells us that. And some of our issues are lifestyle. Some of our issues are genetic. I might have a genetic mutation that causes my cholesterol level to be high irrespective of the lifestyle I lead. But when you do the same lifestyle things, your markers are much better. And I'll beat myself up about it. You know what? Everything I do, I just can't lose weight.
Right.
But it may be my genetics. How much of it is lifestyle, how much of it is genetics, is what Mira 1 allows you to figure out. And I'll give an example similar to what Gaurav said. My co-founder, he has high homocysteine, which is a marker of heart issues, clotting and so on. When you have high homocysteine, your cardiologist will tell you take folic acid as the supplement. It will reduce your homocysteine levels. But because we also did his genetic test, we found out that his one mutation, his body cannot convert folic acid into methylfolate, which is what's going to bring down your homocysteine levels. And so he can take as much folic acid as he wants. His markers won't come down. But the moment he showed this report to his doctor said, oh, okay, then instead of taking folic acid, take methylfolate as your supplement. It changed his whole approach and it changed his answer. And so to me, the blood test, this blood test, Mira 1, should be the beginning of your journey, because it will tell you what has to be managed through lifestyle, what has to be managed through dealing with the genetics. Sometimes you have to take medication, but sometimes you don't. Once you know, then use Gabit 1, because then you know what to focus on. So I think there's a need for both. It's a question of where the journey begins.
So whenever we talk about technology and AI, we talk about data, right? Your platforms sit on some of the most intimate data, some of the most personal data that exists. Who owns that health data? And I'm asking this, is it the user, is it the platform, or is it whoever's willing to pay? And as a follow-up, what happens if somebody acquires your company? What happens to that data?
Our philosophy is very clear. The customer owns the data. It's their data. You want to do anything with your data for your benefit, you can do that. Even the example I shared, where you give to your parents or anyone, you can share your data. So we are very clear.
Okay.
And there are many use cases for this, but yeah, that's how we treat it. Okay. Yeah. And acquisition, no acquisition, doesn't matter. That thing doesn't change, because I think that's the fundamental truth of how we built it and how we want to build this.
Okay.
Completely agree. I don't think there's any question about it.
So the last question, should AI health products require a necessary clinical trial evidence before being sold, or does that actually start killing innovation? Because with the pace of change, you also need to be innovating at a certain pace. So if you wait for clinical trials, sometimes that actually does slow innovation down. So it's a chicken and egg situation. What are your thoughts on that?
So again, I think my philosophy is that whatever tools we use to track our health, one, of course, there's some, like if you use an equipment like this or use a tracker like this versus you go to a medical equipment where you do this, of course, there's a difference between the two. But the balance has to be the framework or the technology we use has to have a balance between the level of innovation and the level of trust people can build. Because you also need trust in this, right? So if you have to balance the two, actually, we like to believe that at Gabit, we are building medical grade wellness equipment. Because if you look at your heart rate, if you look at your resting heart rate, if you look at your VO2 max, it should be very close to what a medical apparatus can give you, right? Because at the end of the day, now AI and all this continuous data will end up predicting health outcomes for you in the future, right? So it has to be in the right direction. But I think it should not be to the extent that it stifles innovation. Because not everybody can go to a center all the time. Like there is a lot of hindrance in terms of cost, accessibility. But if this can be used to give an early risk warning to grow to a center, that's the good use case for a wearable. So I think we have to be very clear what they're being used for.
Yeah. Nickhil?
So, we are in clinical genomics. We are not trying to tell you what your ancestry was. We are telling you if you have cancer, this is the treatment you need.
Yep.
When you do that, it has to be evidence-based. However, having said that, it is like you said, a chicken and egg problem. To build evidence, you require data. And so, to me, the more important piece is, can we be very clear what is evidence-based and what is not? Whenever we say anything, like I write a blog post. In my blog post, I always make it clear. This is based on evidence. This is something we are experimenting with.
Yeah.
We might come to a conclusion that berberine has no value to reducing your HbA1c. There are some papers that talk about it. So I think that clarity is more important, and that's what builds trust.
So one question on behalf of the audience, and then if we actually we're still out of time, but we'll probably take a couple of questions. But 20 seconds, if I can ask one thing from each of you, whether it's a behavior, whether it's a test, whether it's a tool, that science supports that you would recommend that somebody should do, which will extend your healthy life. One thing.
Track your health. Like you only improve something that you can measure. So whatever works for you, start tracking your health. Either it's a wearable or regular blood test, super important.
Nikhil?
My introduction said I'm 15 years younger than my my chronological age. It's because I do the basics. Have enough fiber in your day and walk enough during the day.
We'll try and take a couple of questions from the audience in case we have time. I'm sure there'll be enough and more people. Can we get a mic quickly to 2 people, and then we are badly out of time. Keep your questions short, please. The other panelists are waiting. Sure.
Can we
get another mic? Just scream.
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, I don't believe so.
How can it be mandatory to give it an insurance company? I think this data is very private. I don't think there will be any mandatory requirement for any company to give this data to any other company to do anything with that. I just don't understand why that would be the case.
In fact, with the whole DP and all of that, if the consumer says, I don't want it anymore, you have to delete it.
Yeah,
so there should be.
You wanted to ask a question?
Yeah. They'll have to ask the consumer, not us. Yeah. Then the consumer has to decide whether there's any value to them of giving it. I would not.
Can we have your question, please?
Thank you. Hello, my name is Elise. I'm the founder of Mingla company where we build tech for human connection. So in the longevity space, I'm so curious as of why we're not talking more about the effects and the importance of human connection when it comes to longevity, whilst we know that it is the #1 predictor of a long and healthy life. Thank you.
So thanks for that reminder. Gabit is built around that thesis. So Gabit is one of the only wearable who actually integrate fitness, nutrition, sleep, and mindfulness. And mindfulness comes from a lot of things, including meditation and social connections. So it's a very important part of what we do.
Yeah. And I just want to add to that. I actually run a free WhatsApp-based community. Anyone in any part of the world can join it. And in addition to being able to ask questions that matter to you and have your community answer it, we also do these in-person meetups. So you can actually build that connection, because personal connections and purpose probably are the two biggest drivers of long-term health than anything else.
Thank you.
In fact, we have a feature on the Gabit marketing called Tribes. You can actually create a tribe with your family and friends and compete on health metrics, like who did the most steps today, whose sleep score was the best, who was the most calm during the day today. So that's a great way to socially compete and get healthier.
Well, I'll try and sum this up. I think what this conversation has done is something which we find very rare to be in this industry. It's been extremely honest. The fact that AI is going to change health is not a debate anymore, right? The question is who benefits, and I'm delighted to have my panelists here because I think both of them are focusing on making sure that the process of making all of us healthy is being democratized, because if precision health has to be a public health story, because if it is solving a problem for a very few who are at the top of the food chain, then it's a very expensive sort of solution for a very large problem. So maybe the question shouldn't be whether you can live to be 100. I think the question is whether all of the next generation can live to be a very, very healthy and vibrant 80, right? Then that would be the new actual real revolution for us. Thank you so much, and thank you so much. I really enjoyed this chat.
Thank you.
I wish we could continue, but thank you so much. Thank you.